Elena Rybakina saw exactly what Eala did to Donna Vekic, and what she said about it, before they even stepped on the same court, stopped the tennis world cold. A 21-year-old wildcard from the Philippines had just walked onto the Steffi Graf Stadium grass and taken down the reigning Queen's Club champion in straight sets, 7-5, 6-4. Not on clay, not on a surface where upsets get explained away, on grass. Donna Vekic's grass, the same surface where Vekic had just been untouchable for an entire week in London. ESPN. And now, waiting in the next round with a first-round bye was world number 2 Elena Rybakina, Wimbledon champion, Australian Open champion, one of the most feared players on the WTA Tour. She had watched, she had noticed, and what she said when reporters asked her about it, that's what we need to talk about. Stay with me, because this story goes deeper than a single match result.
To understand what happened at the Steffi Graf Stadion on June 17th, you have to understand who Eala was just 12 months ago and how fast that story changed. After reaching the Miami Open semifinals in 2025, making her first WTA final in Eastbourne, and climbing into the top 100, she had since reached a career-high ranking of number 29. That is a sentence that still doesn't get its full due. A young Filipina woman, born into a country where tennis has never produced a player at this level, quietly scaling the rankings while the sports establishment barely looked up. All-Star magazine. She heads to Germany after a second-round exit at the Queen's Club Championships in London. Before that, the 21-year-old won the Birmingham Open, lifting her second career WTA 125 title. That Birmingham title mattered more than people gave it credit for. It was her first professional title on grass, on a surface many had written off as incompatible with her game. She filed that away, said nothing loud about it, and kept moving. Olympics. But here is the detail that set the stage for everything that followed in Berlin. The night before her first-round clash against Donna Vekic, Eala, Coco Gauff, and Eva Lees had their sleep interrupted when a 3 a.m. fire alarm left them stranded outside their Berlin hotel. 3 players, outside, in the middle of the night, hours before one of the biggest matches of the grass season. For Gauff, who had a later start time, it was an inconvenience. For Eala, who was scheduled as the first match of the day at 11 in the morning, it was a potential disaster. Yahoo Sports. The late-night disruption could prove especially detrimental for Eala, who was scheduled to lock horns with Donna Vekic in the first match of the day at the Berlin Open. People wrote about it. They speculated. Some fans online quietly predicted that a sleep-deprived Eala, facing a player fresh off a title in London, would struggle to find her level. Pro Football Network. What happened instead was something else entirely, something nobody had planned for, something that would force Elena Rybakina to take notice before she even picked up her racket.
Here is what made this win shocking. Donna Vekic was not just any player walking into Berlin. Eala stopped Vekic's 5-match winning streak on grass, methodically breaking down the Croatian in the opening round of the WTA 500 Berlin Tennis Open. 5 matches on grass, unbeaten, coming off the title. A former Wimbledon semifinalist and Olympic silver medalist who had just dispatched Emma Raducanu in the Queen's Club final days earlier. Tiebreaker times. Vekic clinched her 5th title on the WTA Tour and her 2nd trophy on grass courts after defeating Raducanu in the final of the 2026 HSBC Championships. She made the most of her lucky loser opportunity and reached the final after defeating Majka Stojsaljevic, Marie Buzkova, Pliskova, and Bolter. She was playing some of the best grass court tennis of her career. She had earned her momentum honestly. Pro Football Network. And Eala took it apart point by point. The difference came in the pressure points. Vekic created 14 breakpoint chances, but converted only 2, while Eala converted 4 of her 6 opportunities. Eala also edged Vekic in total points won, 74-69, in a match that lasted 1 hour and 50 minutes. All-Star magazine. But numbers only tell part of the story, because when serving for the match at 5-4 in the second set, the Filipina showed her composure under pressure, erasing a 0-40 deficit before closing out the victory. She was down love 40, 3 points from losing her serve, 3 points from letting Vekic back into the match, and she saved all 3. ESPN. Asked afterward what she told herself in that moment, Eala said, "I told myself that she was fighting back, but I'm also a fighter, so I had to try. Every time I played Donna, it's always been difficult. She's such an incredible player. I'm very happy with today's result." Cebu Daily News. Simple words, but loaded with something, because she wasn't just saying she fought back. She was announcing something about herself, about who she had become, about the kind of player she intended to be going forward. Now, does Rybakina know what she just walked into? Take notice before she even picked up her racket. Here is where this story pivots. On the tennis front, Elena Rybakina had entered the Berlin Tennis Open as the number 2 seed, receiving a first-round bye. She would face either Alexandra Eala or Donna Vekic in her opening match at the WTA 500 event. Rybakina had been watching. She knew the winner of that first-round match would be walking into her half of the draw with something to prove. Pro Football Network. After Eala finished off Vekic, reporters went to Rybakina. What did she make of what she saw? What was her assessment of the woman she would now have to face? And this is the part that shocked fans, because Rybakina didn't brush it aside. She didn't give the standard diplomatic non-answer that top seeds often reach for when asked about unseeded opponents. Rybakina admitted that going up against Alex Eala was no easy task, citing her impressive use of her left hand. She had already experienced this firsthand in Rome. She had beaten Eala there, but she hadn't forgotten it. Rybakina said, "We played with Alex for the first time against each other, and it's always challenging to play against a lefty. But overall, I'm happy with everything I did on the court." Daily Tribune, Tennis Head. That was Rome, clay, her surface, her conditions, and even there she had felt it. In Berlin, Rybakina was in a slump with a record of 5 wins and 5 losses in her last 10 matches. Her erratic first serve, only 52% against Bolter, contrasted sharply with Eala's 8 aces in the first round. The numbers told a story Rybakina couldn't ignore. She was coming in inconsistent, and Eala was coming in sharp. Tennis Temple. Fans online lit up the moment the context landed. A world number 2, a Grand Slam champion, a Wimbledon title holder, openly acknowledging that a wild card had made her uncomfortable. Not after a loss, before the match. That kind of honesty from someone at Rybakina's level doesn't happen unless the concern is real. What is it about this 21-year-old that keeps making bigger and bigger names stop and take notice? Let's step back for a second, because the Eala versus Rybakina matchup in Berlin isn't just a second-round match in a WTA 500 event. It carries weight that extends far beyond the Steffi Graf Stadion, far beyond Germany. A victory over Rybakina would likely stand as the biggest singles win in Philippine tennis history, while strengthening Eala's push toward a Wimbledon seeding. Read that again. The biggest singles win in Philippine tennis history. That's not hyperbole for dramatic effect. That is simply what it would be. A nation of over 110 million people watching one of their own walk onto a grass court in Berlin and take on a former Wimbledon champion in a straight-up fight. Yahoo Sports. But there's something even more specific about why analysts and former players believe Eala has a genuine shot at pulling this off. Eala's grass court swing had quietly become one of the most encouraging stretches of her season. She arrived in Berlin fresh off a title run in Birmingham, where she defeated Priscilla Hahn, Rebecca Mazarova, and Nikola Bartunkova. The Vekic victory further strengthened a growing belief that grass may be the surface best suited to her aggressive ball striking and early court positioning. Yahoo Sports. And then there is the serve, the one thing her critics have pointed to all season long. Former world number 9 Andrea Petkovic recently identified Eala's self as the biggest obstacle separating her from the sport's elite, saying, "The serve is very inconsistent. She has those weeks where she can't make first serves, and the second is very attackable." Yahoo Sports. Against Vekic, that weapon didn't crack under pressure. It answered. Against Vekic, Eala fired 7 aces, committed only 2 double faults, and saved 12 of 14 breakpoints, producing one of her strongest serving performances of 2026. In Rome, Rybakina broke her 4 times. 4 times. In Berlin, Eala was broken twice in the entire match. That is a different player walking into this rematch. That is a player who has done the work, listened to the criticism, and responded with the only language that matters in sport. Yahoo Sports. Eala later revealed the mindset behind her late-match composure. "I think after one point, especially if she wins it with a winner, you just have to recollect, forget the last point, and stay in the moment," she said. "I decide before I serve." Yahoo Sports. She decides before she serves. That is not just a tactical comment. That is a window into the mental architecture of a player who is no longer playing with fear. Now, let's be honest about something. Because this story isn't just about Eala rising, it's also about a version of Rybakina that is, right now, genuinely vulnerable. Rybakina had become the latest player to speak out about online abuse, joining the likes of Aryna Sabalenka, Carlos Alcaraz, and Coco Gauff in highlighting the damaging effects of the issue.
Having taken a significant step to shield herself from negativity after her loss at Queen's Club, Rybakina explained, "It's impossible to control it any other way, and of course, it's not the nicest thing. I usually don't pay much attention, but at that point it felt important. A lot of it is connected to betting, and I felt that if these people can't stop in the moment because they lost money, I'd rather give the option to comment nothing." Pro Football Network. That is not the statement of someone who is floating on confidence. That is a world number 2 who was rattled enough by what happened at Queen's Club, where she lost early to Katie Boulter, that she felt the need to lock down her social media and speak publicly about the abuse she was receiving. Arriving in Berlin, Rybakina said, "I need to be physically strong, of course, and maintain consistency by seizing my chances. In many matches, I have opportunities to break the opponent's serve or to win in straight sets, but in the end, the match becomes very complicated." Punto de break. She said it herself, matches become very complicated, and she's not wrong, because Rybakina was coming in with 5 wins and 5 losses in her last 10 matches. Her ability to vary spin could be unsettled by a Rybakina lacking confidence. Every analysis pointed to the same truth. Rybakina was beatable right now, at this moment, on this surface, against this opponent. Tennis Temple. And the player across the net, a wildcard, ranked 35th, sleep-deprived from a 3 a.m. fire alarm, had just beaten the reigning Queen's Club champion without dropping a set. Think about that contrast. Really think about it.
What happened in Berlin on June 17, 2026 was not just a tennis result. It was a statement. A 21-year-old wildcard, barely sleeping, carrying the weight of an entire nation's hope, walked onto the biggest grass court stage of her career and dismantled the reigning champion in under 2 hours. And the world number 2, watching from the sidelines with her own Instagram comments locked and her form fragile, had to stand up and admit, this left-handed girl is the real thing. That is the story. That is what made fans stop scrolling. That is what Rybakina's reaction confirmed before a single ball had been hit between them. Whatever happens next in Berlin, this chapter of Alex Eala's story has already been written, and it reads like something the sport hasn't seen in a very long time. Drop a comment below. Do you think Eala can beat Rybakina on grass and make Wimbledon history? And if you haven't subscribed yet, this is exactly the kind of story you'll miss. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and stay in the conversation. We cover women's tennis the way it deserves to be covered, with the drama, the truth, and the emotion that the headlines miss.